Hi. Hey. Hello. It's Sunny and oh shit, Leatherface! Yeah, we got ourselves another icon of the slasher horror genre, Leatherface and his kooky family, as we tackle yet another classic in the sphere of horror, indie psychological suspense chaotic horror masterpiece in 1974's The Texas Chain Saw Massacre.
Oil storage units continue to burn out of control at the huge Texaco refinery near the Texas.
Tobe Hooper was working as an assistant film director and documentary cameraman at the University of Texas back in the early 1970s. During that time, he was slowly crafting up the concept of Texas Chain Saw Massacre when developing a story with the core elements of isolation, the woods, and the darkness, with further inspiration developing from coverage of violence by San Antonio news outlets and the real-life murderer Ed Gein, who also inspired many other horror films at the time. He was mainly fascinated by Gein's sense of morality and other serial killer, Elmer Wayne Henley, how when arrested for his crimes, he owned up to it and took it like a man in his, Elmer's, words. A fascination he wanted to implement into the characters of this project, a sense of morality and cited changes in the cultural and political landscape, particularly the intentional misinformation in the film opening with the lie of being based on true events, a response to how the government lied about occurrences all over the world, from Watergate, the 1973 oil crisis, and atrocities in the Vietnam War. The inspiration for Leatherface's mask came off Hooper's notice of news coverage and the graphic coverage of incidents being showcased, the revelation that man was the real monster, just wearing a different face. He would have hated this fucker. He came up with the chainsaw element when at a workshop and thought of its violent utility. Hooper and co-writer Kim Henkel would form Vortex Inc. and fund the film with a $140,000 budget, with a ranging of the cast including obscure and unknown Texan actors appearing in only commercials and stage plays, and finding its locale in an early 1900s farmhouse located on Quick Hill Road, near Round Rock, Texas. It was a very rough production with a humid temperature of the locale, real injuries, mistakes, limited special effects, poor and limited scheduling, rare costume usage, among many others, and after struggling with a distributor for the film, including a court judgment over profit sharing, we got the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I believe this film would not have worked as well and be a classic today without its filmmaking. Sure, I can say that about any movie, obviously, yet for this, I mean it. Honestly, maybe the best part. The music from Wayne Bell and Tobe Hooper himself is generally bone chilling in a literal sense. The creepy, tingling, industrial overall score to the movie that adds to the overall looming atmosphere. It generally adds to the effect of the film's scares, even adding in sound design to make it more unsettling. During the Leatherface chase, the way the music just sounds like what Constant Dread sounds like, added with Sally screaming and the loud ass chainsaw it makes you uncomfortable watching it. Even how the film doesn't have music playing and is all sound to make it more real and haunting. The same music for the psychotic climax and its jumble of eerie sounds and a consistent low down soaring tone to make it nerve wracking. Going alongside the editing, it's so abrupt in a very choppy sense, yet it works. It adds to the chaotic energy slowly surging across the entire film with its incredible pacing that I'll go in more detail with later. The cinematography is downright horrifically gorgeous. It has a very documentary-like aesthetic to it, which is twisted in how it portrays the film's visuals almost as if this is real documentation of real people going through real horrific events. From the film grain, follow-through shots, captures of horrific imagery, and zoom-ins and zoom-outs to really get you immersed in not just witnessing brutality, murder, and terror of the Slaughter family, yet its overall cheap production inhales and exhales all of that with its surreal large field of grass with 2 houses across. That is such a minimal yet slowly unveiling and haunting location for the film to be set from the abandoned building our characters travel to and its former status of a family-held home into the dead place it is now, and the beautifully picked homes of our villains, from the outside being a normal and almost beautiful suburban outdoor American household in this large land, and its twisted interior of animal corpses, skin, and rusty worn-out darkness all inside that is chilling. It helps when the overall location of being in the middle of nowhere and there being nothing else aside these buildings but trees, the road, and a gas station that turns out to be another trap. It's scary. Most slasher horror films, with this primarily being one of the pre-slasher genre films and more exploitive, having not followed the yet not established rules of a public forest or neighborhood setting its successors would follow, allowing this to be a truly unescapable place. Same for the simple. The characters of Texas Chain Saw Massacre are straightforward. I mean, yeah, it's a horror film, big surprise. Pretty short section this one will be, I tell ya. Real quick, the normal Texan residents we meet right at the beginning, though are normal, is exactly the point I make. Are normal, except this dude. And greatly established right off the bat the film's tone and opening as we leave them alongside our victims as we enter the hellhole that is the further plot. Almost leaving normal society into the hands of the slaughtered family. Another quick note, John Larroquette as the narrator. He did a fantastic job at having such a deep and analytical tone into describing this perfect opening crawl to really get us into the horrific mood. Now our actual characters. Victims first. Our group of friends from Final Girl, Sally Hardesty, boyfriend Jerry, brother Franklin, friend Kirk, and his girlfriend Pam. They are very bare bones, honestly, yet this is the rarity in a horror film where I still sympathize and feel for them, even though they barely have a character in them. Not only is the acting solid, yet they feel like real humans. Real human beings who we only see rare of them in terms of personality expressing because they're just on a road trip. The only character with any real persona is Franklin, who just feels left out really, and the actor does a really good job. And it's because they feel so normal and humane with the raw and real aesthetic this film portrays that seeing them be afraid, murdered, and hunted generally feels frightening. Especially props to Sally's actress, the legend Marilyn Burns, who's screaming off in like the last 30 minutes of the movie, and she serves as a great sort of POV to the horrors of this movie. Now the real kicker, our killers, the Slaughter family, as established in this film. We first encountered the hitchhiker on the road, and he is so unsettling, creepy, and kind of funny on an out-of-film performance level. At first he seems off, yet slowly and gradually unveils his absurdist nature and gives the most insight into the workings of the family. He's also the kind of crazy to be able to physically harm himself and others, already setting off the capabilities of the family and his twisted enjoyment in tormenting people. You then get the old man, who I think is the best reveal in the film. We first see him at a stop-by gas station, and it isn't until a rewatch you see all the signs unveiled there. And as Sally comes to be rescued, he reveals he is yet another member and did the best in luring his victims, being this kind, friendly gas station owner into this twisted, hypocritical, psychotic monster who disciplines his others and also manipulates them into murder instead of doing it himself. Probably the most fucked up of the fam. You also have Grandpa, at first a seeming corpse stored with the family alongside Grandma, who is dead, only for the family to cherish him and establish he's probably the most sickening of them all. Yet is very old and therefore isn't up to snuff, and his overall design, costume, and just aura is creepy. And then finally, the icon of the franchise, Leatherface, who is of course the real big brute, and is truly horrifying. This psychologically far-gone member of the family who plays the role of murderer, hunter, and housewife, who wears a mask of skin and from the clever detail of his mask, seems to detain multiple personalities and roles. His iconic look in being the upfront slasher, a feminine look in being the kitchen housewife, and the makeup look for both a continuation of the prior and perhaps to feel pretty and look good to everyone, and when hunting his prey. I totally understand why Leatherface is an icon. He's the main slasher and is generally scary. Man done got me jump scared effectively and good like 3 times in the film. Though I have a very unique opinion in that I feel the entire family is iconic. What this rewatch and analysis has taught me is how every horror slasher is iconic in their own right. Yet what makes Leatherface so unique and special is that he isn't a solo character. The entire family is iconic and equally terrifying and makes him stand out for being more of a team of sicko killers than just one monster. And these monsters wouldn't work without the Like the characters, the story is very straightforward and like the characters in a good way. It's not really much of a plot, yet rather a sequence of events that occur all in this one day. And though, yes, that is a story, that is a plot, there's no substance or anything to it, and yet it works. This kind of film doesn't need that, really, I think. We get that fantastic opening crawl and haunting flash visuals with this haunting visual of this corpse, and get into the road trip of this group of ordinary friends and witness the horrifying events they must endure, from picking up this crazed hitchhiker to exploring Sally and Franklin's former home, now an abandoned shell of itself. And once the group break up and discover the house not too far, they all get murdered one by one until Sally is hunted down, kidnapped, and tortured and nearly murdered by the Slaughter family. All compiled of their hunters, from the hitchhiker, old man, and Leatherface, until she successfully breaks away and escapes, with clearly trauma going to affect her the rest of her life. And isn't until further examination you realize this story has some meat to it, because though the film doesn't fully explore the Slaughter family in depth, and I think that's great, some of my favorite stories, yet especially in horror, leave everything a mystery with clues in place and ultimately leaving you to interpret what it all meant. There's a clear picture here in the themes of the effects of innovation, the psychosis of necessity, and the horror of humans. The animal slaughter industry and how the innovation of machines has replaced many human-held jobs, therefore causing the downfall of the Slaughter family, possibly resulting in them having no way of earning income, and thus falling into a deep mental decay and resulting into cannibalism, abducting, murdering, and eating victims that fall into their trap. And it's hauntingly real as to how the ways of economic advancement can harm the former ordinary job needed and honestly food needed civilian, leading them into their bare human necessities of money and using that money for food to cause them to consume fellow innocent people, and showcasing the horrors of how far humans can go, and also just how much of a psychotic family this film beholds. It's not that they feel bad or force themselves to do it, they take a twisted enjoyment out of it, and even harm each other, and it's just so cinematically horrific. The real tone, the haunting style, and the incredible pacing really makes this film what it is. I mean, this movie is only an hour and 25. It goes by quick, and I love how the first half is just a build-up, and we feel like we endure a day with these characters, even though it's only an hour, and it's perfectly paced. And then when everything goes into mayhem, it's just an endless rush until the very end. And I love the movie's ending, not just the terrifying chase, not just Sally's relief screaming, and even Leatherface moving around in pain because they lost her, but because it just ends. Like, okay, it's over. We don't get to see what happens to her and to them. She gets away, damaged for life. All her friends are dead, and the family will probably continue their antics. And that's horrifying to think of, just like life. A true horror classic. On this rewatch, I really appreciated this film, and it reminds me why I'm such an indoor person. The outside world can be great and beautiful with the right time, place, and people to be with, and it's always a risk, especially if you're venturing far out there past your home, because there's always the horror of knowing that there could really be people like you and your friends far away or close by being held captive and not escaping the horrors of far gone humans. And that's a scary thought. It's been sunny, and so long, farewell, and goodbye.
The film which you are about to see is an account of the tragedy which befell a group of 5 youths, in particular, Sally Hardesty and her invalid brother, Franklin. It is all the more tragic in that they were young. But had they lived very, very long lives, they could not have expected, nor would they have wished to see as much of the mad and macabre as they were to see that day. For them, an idyllic summer afternoon drive became a nightmare. The events of that day were to lead to the discovery of one of the most bizarre crimes in the annals of American history. the Texas Chain Saw Massacre.